Hello everyone! We're going to talk about detox tonight. And if you guys have ever heard me talk about detox, you know that this is a very, very in-depth topic. So we are going to skim the surface tonight, do a little bit of a shorter live. We'll have time for questions at the end. And hi Brooke! So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about tonight, specifically about detox. We're not going to go through the whole thing, otherwise we'd be here forever. I'm actually creating an online course that's going to cover this whole topic really, really in depth, and that's coming out in about a month. So this is going to give us a little bit of information without, having us stay here all night. So I want to talk specifically about why we need to detox and what that looks like, especially in the body. So I don't know if you guys know this, but there's about 80,000 chemicals that are that are released into the circulation each year in the United States. And, they have found over 700 synthetic types of compounds in the drinking water. So a lot of people don't really understand what detox means because they don't understand how toxic the world is. So detox is the active daily practice of getting rid of certain toxins and chemicals that we are exposed to every day, because as you just heard, there are tons of toxins and chemicals that we are just even getting in the drinking water, especially if you don't have a water filter, which we are going to talk about in a little bit. And not to mention, all the things that we are putting on our face when we shower, when we're doing makeup, cleaning products. So there is a very large toxic burden that we have to get rid of every single day. Otherwise, things are going to build up and we're going to actually become ill. One reason why detox is so important is because if it does build up, that's often when we become ill. Little daily exposures that your body can handle don't result in illness. It's when we have exposures that are coming in consistently all of the time that are overwhelming your system and are creating a lot of sluggish pathways. They're creating blockages. Your enzymes aren't able to do what they need to do to get you to detox. And so that's when you really run into problems. And that's when people tend to report they, are feeling brain foggy, they're feeling fatigued, their libido is dropping, their skin doesn't look so great, their digestion isn't going so well. And so a lot of those can be just signs that your body isn't doing its normal daily elimination properly. There's multiple different systems which we detox with. There's many different organ systems. Probably the most popular one that people know about is the liver. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Second is the gut, and then the skin. So I just want to talk about those three because those are the major ones. So in your liver, what happens with your liver, which is really cool, is that everything that you eat, digest, assimilate, goes directly in this large vein into the liver via the blood. So everything that's in your gut that you absorb goes directly into the blood system in your intestines. And then all of that blood converges into a really large vein that goes directly to the liver to get where that blood, it gets processed, nutrients get stored. Your liver has to detox any sort of chemicals or toxins that you've absorbed. And so the liver has a big job. The liver is doing this, mile a minute. It's constantly, because your gut, we eat every 3 to 4 hours, typically in America. And so your liver is getting this constant nutrient flow to it that it has to deal with. And anything that we take in digestive wise, your liver is going to have the first job to deal with. And this first job of the liver is actually really important, because if the liver can't do its job, then you're not going to store nutrients, you're not going to shuttle nutrients to where they need to go, you're also not going to eliminate toxins, because what happens when the liver gets all of these nutrients is it does all of that processing, but then that blood leaves the liver and goes strictly to the heart, and that fills up the heart, and then the heart sends it to the lungs so that we can oxygenate that blood. And then that oxygenated blood comes back to the heart, and then your heart pumps it all out to the rest of the body. So whatever we digest, all of those nutrients and or those chemicals that we take in, that goes directly to the liver, to the heart, and then to the whole rest of the body. So if the liver, for whatever reason, isn't doing its job properly, then you're not going to feel well. And the liver has a couple of different ways by which it detoxes. Most of you guys have probably heard of phase 1 liver detox and phase 2. So the way that I think about these phases, they, if we think about it technically, they are different types of biochemical reactions. So in each phase, your body does different things with different enzymes to get a certain effect. So what that means essentially is when we bring blood to the liver and the liver has to do something with it, what your liver does is it goes through phase 1 detox, and every single thing that comes to your liver goes through these phases. And this is really, really important to understand, because it's not like, when you take in a processed food or a crappy vegetable oil or, you use a hand cream that has toxins in it. It's not like those things just, come in and get a free pass anywhere. Every single thing that you take in has to go through these 2 delicate phases. And it takes a lot of energy to do this on a microscopic level. And we don't think about it because our liver just does this for us. But if you've ever known anybody that has a liver illness or has a difficulty detoxing, then, they can be really sensitive to chemicals, and they can be really sensitive to certain things that they take in. So this phase 1 liver detox, what's happening is you are essentially taking all of the trash from the trash cans in your house. So if you live in a house or an apartment, you probably have trash cans in different parts of the home. And so when you are taking your trash out, you're bringing the trash from the bathroom, you're bringing the trash from the bedroom, you're bringing the trash from the kitchen. And what you're doing is you're combining that trash and you're putting it by the door, and you're getting it ready to be sent out to the dumpster. So that's phase 1, is we're getting all of the trash ready to be gotten rid of. Phase 2 is when we are actually taking all of that trash and we're putting it into the dumpster. So we're either putting it into the trash cans and rolling it out to the side of our house, or we're actually going to the dumpster and putting the trash in. But the final destination of the trash isn't actually that trash receptacle, right? It's actually when the trash man comes and takes that trash and brings it to the dump. And so phase 2 is when we bring that trash to the trash receptacle. And phase 3, which this is something that I kind of call phase 3, and some naturopaths will call phase 3 as well. But this isn't necessarily a liver thing. So in this, we're transitioning a little bit into the gut world, which we'll talk in a second. But phase 3 is when the trash man actually comes and takes the trash away. And the liver and the gut are very, very closely related. And as I was explaining before, everything that you digest and assimilate goes directly in the intestinal blood that's absorbed all the yummies from what you've eaten, and it goes directly to the liver to be processed. So if there's something off with the gut, for instance, the gut doesn't absorb nutrients very well, or the gut is leaky, or the gut has inflammation, then that's going to affect the job of the liver. So the liver and the gut are so tied, and so I never like to talk about one without the other because they're buddies. And especially when we're talking about detox, liver has phase 1 and phase 2, and then the gut is really responsible for phase 3. So when you are pooping, that's like the trash man coming and taking the trash and, removing it from the premises. Same thing, when poop leaves your body, it's removing from the premises. Anyways, I think it's kind of funny. But you have these phases that your body has to go through to detox. And so when you're thinking about phase 1 and phase 2, we all have certain genetic polymorphisms that affect how our genes code for enzymes. And enzymes are the things in your body that do all of the things for you. They run all of the biochemistry. And so we want all of those chemical reactions to be happening for your cells to breathe, for your cells to get rid of waste, for your cells to take up nutrients. And you can have issues in certain phases based on your genetics or based on just what your diet and lifestyle is, what you've been doing to yourself. I like to call it, because we are all in different environments and exposed to different things and have different habits. And so that affects how our body works. But you can have issues with phase 1, you can have issues with phase 2, and you can have issues with phase 3. So a perfect example of this is somebody that's constipated. So a constipated person is not a good candidate for any sort of detox, because what happens? They absorb all of the food, all of those yummies go into the blood to the liver, and then the liver does its thing, sends out the yummies to all of the other parts of the body via the blood. But then once you've used up all those nutrients and you need to create poop and get rid of poop, you can't get rid of the poop. So if you're constipated, what's not working is phase 3. And phase 3 is that final elimination step when all of those toxins that have been nicely bound up and put into the poop to get rid of, they have the potential to get reabsorbed. So phase 1 and phase 2, what's happening there is you're essentially transforming, we call it biotransforming. You're biotransforming different types of molecules to either make them inert, which is not a problem, or to transform them so that they are easily excretable. Because every molecule you just can't, take from the liver, take from the blood, and put it directly into the poop and get rid of it. Molecules need to be in certain forms. So often things need to be like glucuronidated, which is adding a water molecule to things, or adding a certain protein group to things to get rid of it. Things need to be methylated, things need to go through glutathione cycle in the liver, and a lot of that is part of the liver phases, both phase 1 and phase 2. So if you can't get those molecules into those forms in order to be excreted, then you're going to have issues with phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox. So a really good example of having issues with phase 1, phase 2 detox is some of us that have any sort of PMS symptoms. So a lot of women will get tender breasts, they will get hot flashes, they will get moodiness, and sometimes that's due to an issue of phase 1, phase 2 liver detox, having issue detoxing certain hormones, especially estrogen. And so what we can do actually is we can support those biochemical pathways so that you can actually get rid of those toxins. In this case, estrogen. Estrogen is a funny thing. It's a hormone that we use, but we don't want too much of it. We don't want too little of it. And when we're excreting it, we really want to get rid of it because your body has determined that estrogen we don't need anymore. And what can happen commonly if liver is not working properly for biotransformation or gut is not working properly, sometimes what happens is that we end up reabsorbing that estrogen, and that can cause some PMS symptoms, some estrogen overload symptoms, can create acne, can just make women not feel very good. So you can kind of see, I hope this is clear to you guys, I hope you can kind of see how we need the liver and the gut to really work together through those 3 phases of detox. So, you can imagine if we're talking about the trash example again, if you are the person in your household, if you are phase 1 that is always gathering the trash and putting it by the door to have phase 2 person come and take the trash out to the dumpster, if you're constantly bringing trash to the door and your phase 2 person never comes to the door to take the trash out, what's going to happen? Everything's going to stink. The whole house is going to stink, and you're not going to be able to move that molecule through. The trash is not going to leave. So that's an example where phase 1 is working well, but phase 2 is not working well. Sometimes phase 2 is working, or I should say, that's an example when phase 1 is working well, but phase 2 is not working well. You can have the opposite happen. You can have phases go too fast or slow. Usually for most people, it's when things go too slow because that's when things get backed up. So we really need both pathways to work. Every molecule that you need to detoxify has to go through phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox. So it's actually really, really important. So we talked about liver and gut phases of detox. I want to talk about gut a little bit more before we go into skin. So the gut phase of detox really is just purely thinking about pooping. So the gut, what happens with the feces is that there's just a lot of matter that our body doesn't need anymore, that has concentrated in the colon that we need to eliminate. And a lot of things leave in the poop that we don't need anymore. Old bile acids, old hormones, different food substances, cellulose, things like plant fiber that can't be broken down, and then a bunch of waste products from cells. And so when things get put into the poop, these are things that you really don't want to get exposed to anymore. And these are toxins that have been specifically put in the poop to get rid of. And so one really common thing that happens is people don't poop regularly enough to get rid of their toxins fast enough to not reabsorb them. The best way for getting rid of toxins is to have regular bowel movements. But a lot of people don't have regular bowel movements, and you should have 3 bowel movements per day. Ideally, though most people aren't at that amount, and I think part of that is because we have lost a lot of the signals that we get used to with our body, with our modern lifestyle and world. We're also eating, highly processed foods unless you really are diligent about eating a whole foods diet. So most people do not go to the bathroom after every meal, though that is what I believe would be ideal. Most people, first thing in the morning or once or twice a day, and that is moving their bowels in a time frame where they're able to absorb enough of the nutrients out of the food, but it's not too fast. Because those of you that have had diarrhea, you know what fast transit time is. But most people that have most of the time when we talk about issues with detoxing in the gut, we're usually talking about any sort of constipation or any sort of, because it doesn't even have to be constipation, because constipation is defined a lot of different ways. A lot of my patients will say that they're constipated if they don't feel like they have a satisfied bowel movement. They don't get off the toilet and say, wow, that was so good. I feel like I got everything out. A lot of people will define constipation that way. Constipation medically is defined as when you don't poop for a long period of time. Depending on the source, it really varies whether it's 3 days, 5 days, or longer. And it's different in different population groups, especially if you compare pediatrics, newborns, to adults. So it's different depending on where you are in life. But constipation is this idea that we're not eliminating through the stool. And that's a problem because that allows the stool to stay in the gut. And whenever you're keeping stool in the body for longer than it should, you always have the possibility of reabsorbing some of those toxins that you've excreted into the poop to get rid of. And that actually happens really commonly with people that don't go to the bathroom regularly. So when I'm working with patients, I'm always asking them about their poop and saying, are you having a satisfying bowel movement every single day? And if you're not having a satisfied bowel movement every single day, what are your habits that could be contributing to that not happening? Because making sure that we're moving things out of the gut is really, really important, because we can become more toxic as we're reabsorbing things. If you look back in old naturopathic textbooks, they talk a lot about this thing called toxemia. And toxemia is this idea that your body is becoming toxified. And that can happen a lot of different ways. Inflammation plays a role into it. Not being able to excrete or detox plays a role into it. Not pooping plays a role into it. And so I always like to think about, how toxic is this person? How toxic am I? What are my habits that are supporting my bowel movements, my phase 1, phase 2 liver detox? It all adds up. So ask yourself that after this video. So we talked about liver and gut as being, we're talking about 3 phases of detox tonight for those of you that just tuned in. I just went through liver, we just went through gut phase of detox, and then another one of my personal favorites is actually the skin. So the skin is our biggest organ, And we have sweat glands all over the skin, as most of you guys have found out with being alive. We are constantly regulating our temperature and constantly dealing with release of toxins. And sweating, in my opinion, is probably one of the best ways to actually get rid of toxins. And the reason why is because unlike other pathways by which we detox, sweating is probably the most accessible and the easiest to do and probably the safest for almost anybody. So, when we're talking about getting someone to poop more consistently when they're constipated, that takes some work. When we're talking about rehabbing somebody's liver or getting their detox pathways in the liver firing more consistently, that takes some work. But when we're talking about detoxing through the skin, that's low-hanging fruit, you guys. Anybody can detox through their skin, and that is easily done by inducing any sort of sweating. And so your skin is, in my opinion, probably the best way to get detoxing. So if you're listening to this and you're like, ooh, I'm constipated and my doctor said my liver enzymes don't look so good, and I'm feeling bloated and my libido is low, and I'm feeling inflamed and my brain is foggy, then you probably aren't detoxing very well, or there's something else going on. But one really easy way to start is just to start with sweating. And so my favorite way to have people do this is to actually exercise, move your body, and you can do this any way that you tend to fancy, because the best exercise is the exercise that we can sustain and that we can love and that we can enjoy. But it doesn't have to be, a crazy high intensity interval training workout. It can really be whatever gets your heart rate up and induces a sweat. If for some reason you can't exercise or you don't have things available to you, then really the best thing is doing the sauna. So sauna, hold on you guys. My computer went to sleep and sometimes I look at this back here. The sauna is fantastic. And the sauna you can find at most gyms, or you can actually purchase your own sauna. You can get versions that are thousands of dollars. You can get versions that are $100 and are portable. So it doesn't have to be a big investment. I really like sauna because, when you're sweating, you're getting toxins out of, all parts of your body. You're getting it out from, your legs, from your torso, from your cheeks, from your scalp, pretty much everywhere in your body is getting some sort of toxin release. And the good thing about sweating is that it's mostly safe for pretty much everybody. And even if somebody is chronically ill, we can put them medically supervised in a sauna. Even an infrared sauna is sometimes better for that population because the heat penetrates a little bit differently. And they can induce a sweat, and so they can get the benefits of detoxing without doing anything fancy or without exercising, especially if somebody can't exercise, because not everybody in the world is able-bodied. So for people that can't move their body for whatever reason, inducing some toxin release in the skin with sweating is really, really fantastic. But the thing that I haven't mentioned that I probably should have started with is that you can release almost every single chemical and gross thing, toxin, whatever it is that your body encounters. You can release almost everything, including heavy metals, in the sweat. Almost everything comes out. There's very few things, and some of you guys that are epic researchers, I'm sure you can find it. Not all heavy metals like to go out that way. That's probably the hardest category in general for detoxing, but a lot of things will leave during the sweat. And so sweating is just one of those low-hanging fruit things that, you can start on, that I often start my patients on, because, all you do is sweat and take a shower and clean up, and then you're done. But one thing to know about sweating is that whenever you're doing any sort of therapeutic sweating or exercise to induce sweating to get rid of toxins, you have to make sure that you're rinsing your body off, that you're taking a shower, as close after the sweating as you can. So don't Don't start your sweat sesh and then stay in those clothes and then drive 30 minutes home. You should get out of your sauna and then do a rinse, put on some fresh clothes, and then go home and then take a shower. That's just one example. Or if you have a home sauna, don't sit there and sweat and then get all distracted by things at home and then take a shower a couple of hours later. Part of the sweating and pulling the toxins out means the toxins are right there on the skin in that water and that salty solution that you have sweat out. And so we need to rinse that off and get that away. One way you can do this when you're sitting somewhere is just take a towel and just remove it. But yeah, a lot of people will stay in their sweaty clothes, and while I understand the convenience and sometimes you can't always get into a shower right away, if you're really trying to do this to get somewhere, you need to be showering, so you need to figure out how to do that. But I love sweating. I think it's awesome. And even if liver and gut functions aren't going so well, if you're constipated or if your microbiome is off or your liver is just not functioning super well, then we can always start somebody sweating before we go to those things first. So 3 things you can do to detox right now in the safety of your own home. That's not complicated, even though the liver phases can be complicated and the gut thing can be complicated. I kind of jumped the gun, but number 1 was sweating. So sweating is really important, and I'm not going to rehash that, but that's my number 1 top thing that you can do at home is sweat. And then, of course, if you're sweating in any way, you need to hydrate. But this is actually my number 2 thing that you need to do in order to detox. So your body is about 70% water, depending on who you talk to. Sometimes the percentage is actually a little bit more. But if you are not hydrating your cells and allowing them to move waste products around and to move nutrients around on the cellular level, then you are going to feel fatigued and exhausted and slow and foggy and creaky and joint painy, and your bowels aren't going to be moving very well, and your detox pathways are not going to be going well either. And so if you are not hydrating, thank you for all the hearts, if you are not hydrating, then you are really doing yourself a disservice. And you guys would be surprised how often I'm actually getting paid one-on-one time to tell somebody that they are dehydrated and they need to actually increase their water intake. But importantly for detoxing, if you don't have a high level of hydration, then you are just not going to do well. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but I experience this. If I am not hydrating well, I don't feel good. There's just something about like if you guys have ever experienced dehydration fatigue, it's a very different fatigue than the fatigue of I didn't get enough sleep, or I just, killed it this morning at the gym, or, I had a stressful day. It's a very different fatigue. And I think we tend to feel that way because the cells on the cellular level are like, WTF are you doing to me? Like, they're upset that they're not getting enough water. So definitely hydrate. Whenever I talk about hydration, I always get a lot of questions about like what kind of water is best and what kind of water filter, and do I do electrolytes, and what about all the different things I can put into the water. I believe our bodies are designed to assimilate real water. So if you have and water has minerals is what I mean by that. So if you have a water filter that is heavily changing the water, like it's taking out a lot of the minerals, like there are a lot of water filters called RO filters, reverse osmosis, that take out a lot of the minerals. You need to be fortifying your diet or your water with minerals, and that can be done easily with mineral drops or taking an electrolyte powder. But if you're sweating and you're doing consistent exercise, you're doing consistent sweat sessions, you need to be doing an electrolyte powder anyways to replenish all the different salts and other minerals that you have lost when you're sweating. So The cool thing about electrolytes and water is that when we put a little bit of salt into water, we put other minerals into water that are other electrolytes, it actually helps us absorb water better. So one easy thing that I often have people do is put a little dash of sea salt in their water, or some Himalayan Soleil water, which is amazing. I could talk about Soleil all day, or an electrolyte tablet or scoop of electrolytes, something so that their body has some, I think of water follows salt, and there's always some type of sodium or salt in electrolyte powder. And so the water is just going to be helpful to absorb. Plus, if you're a person that when they increase their water level, they tend to pee a lot, often that means you're not quite getting enough minerals in your diet to help the water really sink in. And you guys wouldn't believe like how many people that I encounter that are truly mineral deficient. And it's not even just magnesium or calcium, it's like the trace minerals. And some of these questions are great. I'm going to get to them kind of towards the end, so stick around. So hydrate. And then the other thing that I think needs no mention, but eating a really, really nutrient-rich diet. So a nutrient-rich diet, to me, is a whole foods diet that has a lot of vegetables, that has high-quality protein, and that has healthy fats and healthy carbohydrates. And this looks different for everybody. I'm gonna introduce my diet plan in the detox program that I'm releasing next month, because this is a diet that I've had a lot of people on over the years, but it's worked really well. So I'm gonna kind of release that info in my detox program, so look for that. But a whole foods nutrient-rich diet looks different for everybody because we all have different needs. So you might need more carbohydrates than me, I might need more protein than you, vice versa. But the key with the whole foods diet is that you have, especially when we're talking about detox, is that you eat a high amount of vegetables. And so the goal that I have for most people is that they're getting about 5 cups of vegetables per day, which, is about 2 servings at lunch, 2 servings at dinner, and a serving at breakfast. Or you can jam a bunch into a smoothie, or you can do, a big veggie spread, however you want to do it. But you have to be getting in nutrients via vegetables consistently, because that's really how our bodies were designed to get nutrients. They weren't designed to get nutrients from processed foods. And supplements, I agree, are great, but there's nothing like folate from plants. There's nothing like the salt from celery sticks. There is nothing like the betaine from beets. There is nothing like the curcumin from the turmeric root. There are so many good things in vegetables, you guys. So if you need to level up your vegetable game, definitely do it. I highly suggest it. When we're talking about all these phases of detox, your body uses nutrients to literally make those pathways work. So if you are not getting inconsistent nutrients, and I say the word consistent a lot because a lot of people say, I eat healthy, but while they are eating quote unquote healthy, the nutrient load that their body is getting every day is not consistent enough to support the body in what it needs to do. So by consistent, I mean, as often as you can, daily, if possible. And I know life gets in the way and nobody's perfect, but making diet a priority is a huge thing. And, when we talk about detox, you can detox a lot of different ways. You can get yourself pooping and hydrate and sweat. That's one way to detox. You can take detox supplements. You can radically shift your diet and improve detox just with diet. There's so many different ways to approach this. And when I think of detoxing someone, I like to give a holistic approach. And so we are, hitting detox from the poop land, and we are hitting detox from nutrient land, and we are hitting detox from sweat land, and we are doing some supplements, and we are doing, a specific type of exercise, and we are working on hormone health and brain health and nutrient levels and things like that. But the basis of all health is a nutrient-rich diet, and vegetables are huge. So if you need to level up your veggie game, or if you don't like vegetables, just try them. My rule is you have to try a vegetable prepared 3 different ways at least 3 times. So for instance, don't just try steamed asparagus and then give up on asparagus, because if you know food at all, steamed asparagus is not really that good. But if you saute asparagus or you roast asparagus, it's actually really good. So not every vegetable is going to taste the best in a certain type of preparation method. So if you are skipping on the vegetables because you don't like them, give yourself time to learn to like them. We have a palate with our taste buds that changes depending on what information and what foods we give to our, what information we feed to ourselves and our body and our taste buds, and what kind of food that we eat. So your palate is malleable, it can change. So the other thing I would say about, I gotta take a drink here. The other thing that I would say about diet, especially when we're talking about gut, is that we have to have fiber in the diet, because fiber in the diet helps to support the gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria support you in so many different ways. And so if we are not eating a diverse veggie diet, then we're not going to get those fibers that those bacteria like to eat so that they can thrive and they can do all of their things. And a lot of people tend to undereat fiber, usually because they're not eating enough vegetables. But it's a general easy fix, because if you're eating lots of vegetables, then you're eating a good amount of fiber. And so we don't generally need to supplement fiber. I don't always supplement fiber with my patients. But the veggies are nutrient dense, which supports detox. The veggies have fiber. The fiber helps feed the gut bacteria that you have in your gut. If you have healthy gut bacteria, it's more likely that your gut is going to be high functioning, less inflamed, less leaky, and more likely to have a consistent poop. So lots of benefits to vegetables. So I'm going to wrap it up here, but we talked tonight about 3 different ways that we detox. So liver, gut, and skin. And then we also talked about the 3 things that you can do at home, which is hydrate, eat a nutrient-rich, whole foods, high fiber diet, and also sweat. So any questions, hit me. I'm going to scroll up here and answer a couple. Love everybody that joined in. Thank you. I am so glad you missed my lives. I am happy to be back on my normal schedule. Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. I invested in a Kangen water machine for pH balance. Yes. So alkaline water is awesome. It has really helped some people heal from different conditions, especially if they have issues with inflammation. Kangen's expensive. I don't think everybody needs to do it. So I'm a little bit biased because I have one of these, but I have what's called a Berkey water filter, and it's a filtering system that filters out pretty much every toxin under the sun. And I did a ton of research on this, you guys, and I had a friend that had one who also did a ton of research, and she loved it, and she told me, go get one. So I have a Berkey water filter. It's a stainless steel. There's no plastic. It has fluoride filters, which very few things remove fluoride from water. And I wish I had the box on me, because it tells you all the things that it gets rid of in the water, and it's fantastic, but it doesn't strip any of the minerals. So I have a Berkey water filter. You can look them up. I think the website's berkeywaterfilters.com. I don't have any affiliation with them besides the fact that I love Berkey. It's great because you can just fill it up with whatever water source that you have, and the water is totally purified. I mean, you can technically put swamp water in a Berkey and have it come out beautiful and clean if the filters are properly primed and working correctly. So I love the Berkey. For some reason, it also tends to make it a little bit more alkaline, which is kind of nice. What's my favorite electrolyte powder? So I have a big favorite electrolyte powder. It is Electrolyte Synergy by Designs for Health, which is the brand. What I like about this powder is that it doesn't have a lot of sugar, which most all electrolytes will have some sort of sugar source, because sugar follows salt, sugar follows water, water follows salt, water follows sugar. My gosh. So all electrolytes need some sort of sugar source, whether it's maltodextrin or dextrin or cane sugar or something in there to help the electrolytes actually get where they need to go. But One of the most common ones that my patients tell me about, because it's at Costco, I think, is Liquid IV. But Liquid IV, you guys, has like 15 grams of sugar in it. So you are getting 3 teaspoons of sugar when you drink Liquid IV, which is ridiculous to me, because about 1 teaspoon is 1 teaspoon of sugar is equal to about 5 grams of sugar. So that's not okay. So I always look for a low sugar version, but you're never going to get a 0 sugar electrolyte. And if somebody markets that to you, they don't know anything about how electrolytes work. So I like Electrolyte Synergy by Designs for Health. I use that therapeutically with clients. It really helps with adrenal fatigue. It helps with getting mineral status up. It has high amounts of vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. It supports the immune system. It also has ribose in it, which is it's a type of sugar that is really, really supportive for the mitochondria. And your mitochondria are the powerhouses of all your cells, so they help you create energy. And who doesn't want steady, even energy? And a lot of things that we do to ourselves and are exposed to toxin-wise really hurt mitochondria. And so any sort of benefit in that pathway I really enjoy. So it covers a lot of bases when I give that to patients. When I recommend supplements to patients, I like to make sure that it's gonna do a couple of things all at once, because I gotta kill a couple birds with one stone. Sorry for the birdies. But we gotta move things along, because I can't have you taking like 100 things, because that's just not gonna work. But I also like the Noon tabs at the store. Those are really great. I also like Vega Hydrator, I think. And then a lot of my pediatric patients like the Ultima powder and sticks. Though if you're comparing the products, I love all the hearts. If you're comparing the products based on ingredients, the Ultima I'm not as impressed with. Do you trust ketones? Yes, I do, and it depends on the brand. The ketone market has really exploded, but there's only certain types of companies that actually produce a good product. The ketones that I recommend are Prove It ketones. Prove It ketones, they taste great, they're well assimilated, they have great formulas, they work. I've used them personally, I've used them with patients. Yes, I trust ketones, but I don't just buy them from anywhere. I pretty much only get it from Prove It, because they're the only company that I know of that uses true beta hydroxybutyrate, which when they're creating ketones in the lab, they're creating 2 different forms of the ketone. One is biologically available, one is not. And so when our body is taking in that ketone salt, it has to filter out through part of the ketones that your body can't use. So that's pointless. So get the stuff that's got the beta hydroxybutyrate in it and nothing else. But they are a multi-level marketing company, so if you have an issue with that, beware. But that's like the only MLM that I'm comfortable with. And if you need a link, let me know, because I guess I do. I am affiliated with them. Mineral drops. I love Trace Mineral Drop, Concentrace Trace Mineral Drops. Really basic, really good for most people. Yes, level up the veggie game, roasting the veggies. Yeah, so my easiest way to get vegetables in is roasting them. All you need to do is chop up vegetables into 1-inch bite-sized pieces, put a piece of parchment paper down on a really large baking sheet, put them all on there, put some salt on it first, let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes. The salt will diffuse into the vegetables and bring them a lot of flavor. And then put your oil on and your pepper, whatever spices, toss it all up, and then put it in the oven for about 400 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes, 20 to 45 minutes, depending on what type of vegetable and how thick it is. Like the watery vegetables like zucchini and peppers, those take less time than like a squash or a potato or something like that. But it can be that easy to get veggies in your diet, and you can, roast up a pan of vegetables, a couple times a week, and you'll always have veggies on hand. But yeah, salt first. If you guys want to get really savvy in the kitchen, culinary wise, to help things taste a little bit better, because when you're making recipes and you're like, this is missing a little bit of something, I highly recommend the book Salt. No, it's not salt. It's Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. SFAH. But it's by this really cool cook, what is it called? My brain is escaping me. She's not just a cookbook author, but she's a chef. And she's really kind of broken down how chefs think and work to make things taste so well balanced. And so, you know, I'm a self-trained cook and decently good at it, if I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit. But reading that book really up-leveled my game, like holy cow. So if you really want to get better at cooking, definitely read that book. I'm like halfway through it and everything already tastes so much better. So thank you all for joining me. We went way longer than we intended, but it's pretty awesome. Love the feedback. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Megan Strodel, and I do these Instagram lives every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. So you'll find me. And I'm also launching a detox program next month that's going to teach you how to safely and effectively detox at home without a practitioner. And, you know, I always recommend that people detox multiple times a year, because we need to clear out these toxins, you guys. They can't just stick around. And often daily detox doesn't quite get deep enough to really keep our health optimal all the time. So I recommend people detox if they can 4 times a year. If they can't do quarterly, then have them do at least yearly or biannually. So this program is going to teach you really how to do this properly, because most programs out there, they're not thinking about phase 1 detox. They're not thinking about phase 2. They're not thinking about that glutathione molecule that you're using in every phase 1 detox. They're not thinking about, you know, one of my favorite modules that I'm creating is actually the mental emotional pieces of detox, of, you know, creating boundaries, of figuring out why you're here, of, you know, stepping into your power, and all of those things. You know, we have to clear out the mental cobwebs as well as the physical. And so we just need to detox on every single level. So that is what the program is about. So if you're interested, stay tuned, because I'll be putting out more info on that. And otherwise, thank you for joining, and this will be on YouTube for all those that missed it. And have a good night, everyone.